Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real World Blockchain Podcast, where we learn how businesses can be helped by the blockchain industry. I am Gauthier Lamotte, your host, and today I am with my three partners in crime, Rebecca Kaplan, Zoe Braderman, and Niall Smith. Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
Uh,
Great.
I'm very well, and I feel like there's a kind of redundancy because I've asked you this question a few times this day today. So, but that's good. This is the funny part of a podcast. So, I have good news today. I'm super happy personally because you guys might have read that, but Japan's largest mobile phone firm, NTT Docomo, has launched a Web3 wallet. So that means that the company that owns 40% of the mobile subscription market shares in Japan. Well, this company is launching a Web3 wallet, so they're going to have many things such as NFTs and other things requiring a phone number, but they're going to use cryptocurrencies as a payment solution. The future is there. And at the same time, Goldman Sachs launched another multi lender blockchain project, so yet another financial product, but that's not the biggest news of this week. The biggest news is the long awaited Dencun upgrade on the Ethereum network. So they finalized it, and that's basically a good means to reduce data fees. So, Niles, you sounded very excited about it. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Over time, this is going to reduce transaction fees for the end users, which is really exciting. Right now, what we're seeing is on layer twos, those fees going down
Mm-hmm.
in something called a blob, which is actually a technical term. And using this is like able to go and have a separation for layer twos into settlement on the Ethereum mainnet versus before what we consider like traditional transactions. Layer twos used to have to compete with those fees, and now they're broken out into their own um, lane, and this has allowed them to actually like reduce what they need to pay and allow people to pay less.
That's fantastic indeed, because Rebecca, you told me last 2 weeks ago that the network fees were around how much?
It was about $20, which was twice the amount of what I was trying to buy, which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So this is really awesome. Anytime you're reducing fees, you're making transactions faster. It's amazing for users. But I do wonder if it can also be problematic. And let me know what you guys think. But
Yeah.
having two blockchains alongside each other after the hard fork, I'm not super technical, but I am kind of wondering, could this cause some issues down the road with security, or would developers have to service two chains? Could there be confusion on which chain to for users to use? Obviously, like, I don't know. It's just like some thoughts that I've been having as I've been reading the articles.
Yeah.
But it is exciting, right?
I definitely think, sorry, that there will be some kind of confusion again, and the addresses are looking like each other, but are not technically exactly the same. So, but this is something that Ethereum users are quite used to
Mhm.
doing, in my opinion, because when you're willing to pay in USDC, for example, which is quite common for our users at
Mhm.
Web3 Enabler, for example. These guys already know that they have to choose the network, be it Polygon, Arbitrum, and so on. So
Mhm.
that's something that's happening quite often.
Yeah, so I think any developers who are developing with these tooling will account for those changes in their development processes. So I don't think that's an issue. I think that isn't really much different than any other feature change within the dependency.
I have a question for you, Zoe, because you're the tech expert here. So they referred to their key element of the upgrade as proto dank sharding. So I know that sharding is a way to split data into different categories and sort them by similarity to save or to have a more efficient computation. Is that the same thing when they call it dank sharding, or is there something I'm missing here?
There are probably, there are probably, specific implications regarding that. Um,
But basically, it's the same idea. They're just using the sharding technology to.
yeah, it really is. It just specifies because there still could be another change in something sharding related. So in every piece of documentation, for example, you would want to specify the specific type of sharding. That's just a kind of a good engineering practice.
Okay, okay. So for you, that's not something that could jeopardize the safety of the network to have sharding on that on this chain.
No, because and any development team would find would apply workarounds to have that common knowledge just kind of in their operations.
Wonderful. That's interesting. I remember that I read something from Solana saying they didn't want to lay their fingers on sharding. So it's interesting to see how Ethereum is going to do that in the future. And basically, they seem to be very confident that this new transaction category of proto-dank sharding will help store data. Through the introduction of these famous data blobs that Niles was talking about a few minutes ago. All right, so this is quite interesting. That means that the biggest network is going to be finally affordable for small purchases. And we have another thing, and Rebecca, you told me that you were dying to try it. So
Yeah.
for our dear listeners, you know who Jack Dorsey is. He's the founder of Twitter, and he's the former owner of Twitter, but he's not involved in it anymore. He actually ditched his previous haircut, his mad scientist hippie haircut with the big beard and long hair, and now he looks like a golden boy, and he created his own crypto wallet, but it's a physical device. So the name is it's rock-like, and the name is BitKey. So what can you tell us about that, Rebecca?
Okay, so first off, it's stunning. It looks so beautiful. The design is super sleek. But it is actually like a three-piece wallet. So it has three keys. It has a software, a hardware, and then a server key, which is amazing, right? It feels like they're listening to the pain points in the space. Like this feels like the next steps for wallets because it's giving users autonomy, but also providing some safeguards, which will ultimately make users feel more comfortable interacting in the space. The UX looks so intuitive, so sleek, and it really reminds me of like wearable tech, both the app and the way the hardware looks. It just gives those like wearable tech vibes, which who isn't into wearables right now, right? Like the Aura Ring, your Apple Watch, like we all have them. I'm really excited to see kind of what comes of it, and I really, really want to try it. So I will report back if I do.
Okay, well, that's interesting. I'm very happy to hear you about to hear your artistic fiber about the design of this device. I saw that it's well, you can only pay for it in fiat currency. Come on, guys! But still, it's it's only $150, which is not much more expensive than a standard wallet. What do you think, Zoe and Niles, about the fact that there are three layers of safety by having these three keys? Do you think it's an overkill, or do you think it's a reasonable added value to this new product?
I think it certainly can't hurt. I mean, I'm inclined to view it as a plus.
Indeed. And Niles, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm very excited. Yeah, I'm very excited. Jack Dorsey really has been champion. In addition to founding Twitter, he is also the founder of Block, formerly Square.
Mhm.
Indeed, indeed. And Block has done a few things already in the field of cryptocurrencies, and notably they did Cash App, which is basically a broker, but which is quite used, and that's interesting because from the founder of Twitter, which is a very politically involved platform, be it now or before, even when the platform changed its owners, it's quite interesting to see that this guy is basically he should be an advocate of centralization, and he basically created this wallet just to say, I quote here. It's important our customers have full control of their Bitcoin. This means having the peace of mind that they'll never lose access to their funds. And that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to Jack Dorsey over the past years, but he seems to be a really a champion of decentralization and decentralized payment solutions. So,
Yeah, one more thing I'll say on the product, which I think is super interesting. Yes, it has 3 keys, but they also put these safeguards in place where if you lose your phone, you can follow these steps to not lose access to technically your money. Same thing, if you lose your hardware, there are certain steps that you can take. And I think that's really important because when we look at the way wallets work today, it is so complicated, right? You have to remember the key phrase and you have your secret key and your public key and all these things. And users are really struggling with that. Now,
indeed.
Dorsey is a builder, right? We can see that because of all the companies he's built, and also the way that he's approaching this. He's really taking into consideration what do the users need, what do they want, and what is the best way for them to interact to interact in this space. And he's kind of creating this like a safe place for someone who's less technical, who's curious, but not willing to take much risk to come in and be like, yeah, okay, I can play around and know that there are these safeguards in place for me that weren't there before. So I hope that other wallets kind of see what he's doing there and kind of take inspiration from some of those things. I think it'd be interesting to see how
Very
it forces
interesting.
innovation.
So for our listeners, you can see that on the screen for those who are watching us on YouTube, and sorry for all those who are listening to us on Spotify or Apple. That's why we film things. You can see that it's a rock, and that there's basically you keep the rock in a safe place, but you can access what's on the stored in the rock from your phone, and that's quite interesting because that means that if you lose your phone, you don't need to have a passphrase. You don't just need to reaccess the rock again. So that's another way, another user experience, and we'll see in the future if it becomes popular. Still, I find it very interesting and very promising. All right, and last news of the day today. Or yesterday, sorry, they announced something quite interesting. Global banks are now participating in a very large-scale blockchain pilot test. So 155 participants from 45 major organizations have settled real-world assets across 22 blockchains. So when I'm talking about major financial institutions, I'm talking about Goldman Sachs, then again, BNY Mellon, them again, and many other companies. So this type of heavy hitter. And according to Bloomberg, they executed over 350 simulated transactions via distributed ledger technology in areas such as tokenized assets, funds registry, and everything. So what do you think, guys? Do you smell that just the way I smell it? It seems like there's really a path towards democratization of this tech here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think anytime we're experimenting with interoperability is really great for the space, right? Because one of the biggest pain points from a user perspective is the fact that the space is very disconnected by nature. So kind of getting all these big names kind of testing out the product and trying to find ways to make things more connected is amazing. And it reminds me of a program that Bahrain launched in 2017. It was a sandbox by the central bank where pretty much they allowed crypto and blockchain companies to come in and test out a product in a controlled environment. And a total of 28 companies went through the program. I don't know how many graduated. I only remember Rain graduating. They were a crypto exchange, but I'm sure many more probably have. And if you know, comment below. But I think programs like this are really helpful because we're still learning the technology, and naturally countries are hesitant and people are hesitant. But when you can explore them in a controlled environment, you're really like getting the best of whatever case, right? So stuff like this makes me really hopeful.
Fascinating. Zoe Niles, what do you think?
I agree. I agree. There's a lot of promise and, well noted regarding the interoperability as the pain point and how this addresses that.
You know,
Anything that like it allows people to interact with each other is going to be a good deal.
and you know that also shows that now there's hardly any way these companies using that tech. There's hardly any way this tech is going back because in the among the other heavy hitters, we had Deloitte, which is the high consulting firm, but there's also Moody's and S&P Global, and there's also Microsoft and the Deutsche Börse, which means well, it literally means Deutsche German stock market, but it's not it's not the state entity alone. It's also other companies. So that's quite interesting. That means that there's a tsunami that has just started, and now it's kind of hard um, to imagine where how far this is going to go. But I don't see any type of ban in the on the blockchain industry now, and it's interesting to see that there are still lagging politicians thinking that this is possible to go back, while other big firms are basically paving the way for this tech to be the next stage of the financial industry. All right. Do you guys have any last words for this week? Any news that you thought that was interesting?
Not last words, but I will say Bitcoin is having quite the year. There's so much stuff happening. It's really exciting.
It's good because actually we did this whole episode without talking about the fact that Bitcoin had reached its all-time high, which means that it's not only about speculation or value, it's also about many other cool projects because we lasted half an hour without even talking about it.
It's very
So
cool.
thank you so much for reminding me that. Thank you,
Um,
everyone. Thank you, dear
thank you.
listeners. This was Real World Blockchain Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter. You can subscribe to our Discord. You can follow us on LinkedIn and many other social media links in the description. Cheers, everyone. See you next
Cheers.
week.